Very important. Write down the first topic for today will be functions in JavaScript. Wait, don't talk at the back now. Listen. Don't talk. Wait, listen. All right, first write down what is the definition of a function in coding. So write down it's basically a code that can be reused again and again. So if there is ever a code that you want to use again and again, you make it into a function. And the first topic will be how to declare a function in JavaScript. So declare a function. Does anyone know how to declare a function in JavaScript? Somebody has done this before. Austin? Do you remember? Yeah, very good. So the keyword to use is you start with function in small letters. And then give a name of the function. And to give a name of the function, you use camel casing. So we'll make it say hello world. So the first alphabet should be small, but the second alphabet of a new word should be big. And open and close a bracket. This is how you start a function. And put curly brackets like that. So you say function, name of the function, then open and close brackets like that. And after that, open and closed curly brackets. And everything you want this function to do should go between the two curly brackets. So let's just do a basic thing. Let's just say, oh, how do you print something in JavaScript from last time? Who remembers? Very good. You do console.log. In double quotes, you say hello world or welcome to JavaScript, something like that. So this is basically a function that will print out hello world. All right, if I run this, what do you think will happen? So if I run this, let's see what happens. Nothing happens. So make a note, if you make a function and run it, nothing happens. So that's when the next thing comes in. How do you call a function? So you make a function and then you call the function. So to call the function, all you have to do is write down the name of the function. So this is how you make the function, and you just write down the name of the function. You call the function, yeah. Outside the curly brackets, yeah, because curly brackets is what the function will do. And then outside of it, you call it. Now, if I run this, what do you think should be the output? So look at that. Hello world, because that's what this function does. Does that make sense? So making a function and calling a functions are two separate things. All right, next thing will be arguments of a function. Arguments, G. So the arguments of a function go between the open and closed bracket that you've made. Let's call it X. So you put an X there. So if the question is pass two arguments, we'll have to do X, comma, Y like that. If the question is three arguments, you do X, comma, Y, comma, Z, and so on. We'll start with one argument, X. And in your print command, you can use that argument. So you can say plus X. And when you are calling a function in the double quotes, you can give a value to the argument. So for example, in double quotes here, if I say, whose name should I use? Anybody's name? Noman. Let's do Noman. So if I do hello world and Noman, the X value becomes Noman. And then if I run this, look at that. So automatically the X value becomes the value you give in your call. Does that make sense? Passing arguments. If you want to give space, you give space here and then run it again. Look at that. So whatever input you give here will become the value of X. Make a note, very important. This is how you pass the arguments. This is called passing arguments. Let's do one more function. Let's do area of a circle. And let's pass the argument as the radius of the circle, R. Let's call it area. So we're making a new function which calculates the area of a circle. So let's define pi like last time, if you remember. And let's define A to be how do you calculate the area of a circle? So you do P times R times. If you remember from last time, we did this practice. And in console.log, you say area of the circle is plus A. Make sense? This will calculate the area of a circle and print out the area of the circle. So how do I call this? What should I put here? What should I type to run this function? You write the name of the function, and in bracket, what do you give? The value of the radius, because that's what the input is. So let's give 2. This will calculate the area of radius 2 and run it. So look at that. If you run this, area of the circle is 12.56, which is pi times r times r. Does that make sense? The power of functions. We'll have to use this to do animations. Is that making sense? Let's do one more thing, which will be called the return keyword. Very important, the return keyword. Return. Now, before you close the function, if you put, say, return A, what do you think will happen if you do this? Any guesses? Anybody knows from computer, other classes? If I put return A here, say it again. Sorry? It will automatically display the value of A here. Any other guesses? All right, just make a note. When you do return in a function, after that, you are able to save that value in a variable. So make a note, only when you do return in a function, the output of that function can be saved in a variable. So then you can use X any way you want. So now if I just print X, look at that, X is 12.56. If you don't do return, then it won't be able to save the value of the area in X. So make a note, if you want to save the output in a variable, you have to give the return keyword at the end of the function. Does that make sense? The functions part. Let's move on. The next one will be called conditionals. JavaScript. We have seen conditionals in hopscotch. Can somebody tell me the conditional we saw in hopscotch? If else, very good. So we will learn if else. And we will also learn switch. We learn 2 conditionals right now, if else and switch. So write down the basic command for if else first. This is the basic command. You say if and open and close the bracket, round brackets. And after that, you put the open and closed curly brackets. Now write down inside the 2 brackets goes the test. Whatever test you want to do goes inside the open and close brackets of if. So for example, let's do one problem. Take input as say 6 and check if value is equal to 6. So take an input as 6, and if it is 6, you say correct input, and if it is not, you say incorrect input. So first, let's take the input. You take the input by the let keyword. You say let x be equal to 6. But in here, what should be the test? So you say, is the x equal to 6? If it is, then what should be the output? You say console.log correct input. And what if it is not? So then after the close curly brackets, you'll have to put else. And again, put curly brackets, open, close. Console.log. You say incorrect input. Right, what if I make this 8 now and run it? What do you think will be the output? So what this will do is it will take x and check, is x equal to 6? If it is, it will go here. If it is not, it will go to the bottom. So if I run this, the output should be incorrect input. Does that make sense? Write down the structure. This is how you need to write the if else. If test, two brackets, curly brackets, else, two curly brackets. Let's do one more. Now check other things. What if you want to check less than 6 or bigger than 6? So now you want to check if the input is less than 6 or also bigger than 6. Then what do we do? So now there are three things you want to check. You take an input and you want to check, is the input equal to 6, or is it bigger than 6, or is it less than 6? If it is equal to 6, the output should be equal to 6. If bigger than 6, it should be bigger than 6, else it should be less than 6. So how do we do this? Any ideas? Say it. Very good. So when there are three choices, in the middle, you have a new thing, which is else if. And open and close curly brackets like that. And in here, you put the second test. So you say is x bigger than 6 here. Say console.log bigger than 6. That's some error here. Can anybody see what the error is? Now this is very important if you can see the error. If you open a double quotes, you have to close it. So look at that, in the brackets, the double quote should be open and close. Let's try and understand this. It will take an input and it will check, is the input equal to 6? If it is, it will go here and say correct input. If it is not, it will check if it's bigger than 6. Then it will go here and say it's bigger than 6. And if nothing happens, it will say it is less than 6. So now if I make this 4, and run this, what do you think will be the output? So let's hope the answer is less than 6. Does that make sense? If it is equal to 6, then the answer is correct input. Any questions here on what's going on? All right, let's do one more. It will be called switch. Very important, switch. Let's do it first and then understand what it does. So you say let x be equal to, in double quotes or single quotes, let's say Richmond. Write it down, then we'll understand what it is. This will be your input. And then you say switch, open and close the bracket. And inside the brackets, you put the input. What is the input here? So you put X here. Any guesses what should be next? Curly brackets, very good. The order is the same. After that, put open and closed curly brackets. Now this is a new thing. Does anyone know what comes after switch? Has anyone done this? All right, if not, it's called case. And in single quotes again, put Richmond. We'll see what it does. Write it down first. And after that, put a colon, not a semicolon, a colon. And then put whatever you want to print out. So you say console.log. And what should we say? I study here. Yeah. So if the input is Richmond, it will say, I study here. What if the input is not Richmond? So you say another case. What if the input is not Richmond? Then you say another case. And let's say somebody puts, give me another borough or something. Say Essex. Put a colon. And say console.log. What do we say? In UK. And at the end of the switch, you should have default. So always end your switch with the default. And say console.log. What is the default for these two? Anyone? What is the default for these two? They're both on Earth, yeah? Let's see. Or we can say on Earth. So here's a question. So write down, this is the structure of switch. You start with switch, case, colon, and default. Right, the input is Richmond right now. If I run this, what do you think will be the output? The output should be I study. Does everyone agree? Anyone disagrees? You can disagree, anyone? So let's see, I disagree. So let's see. So if I run this, so make a note, this is how it works. If the first one matches the first one, everything gets printed out. Wait, listen. If the input matches the first one, everything gets printed out. What if the input matches the second one? So what if I put Essex here? What do you think will be the output? So let's see if I put the second input. So make a note, if it matches the second input, everything below it gets printed out, not just the second one, everything below it. And if I put something random, which is not any of the cases, then what should print out? The default. Very important. Does that make sense? So if it matches the first one, everything gets printed out. If it matches the second one, everything below it. And if it is random, then the default. Any questions? Let's do one more. Is it too much? Okay, one last. Let's do while. They will be called the loops. Last one, while, will be a loop. Let me see. I have an example here. All right, so same thing, you say while, open and close the bracket. And after that, you put curly open and close bracket, the same thing. So let's do a problem. Take, say, x equal to 1 as input and print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so the input should be 1, but the output should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is the question clear? So first thing is you take the input. How do you take an input? You say let x be equal to 1. Till what number do you have to go? This won't happen. It will always start with 0, okay? Always start with 0. The output starts with 0 in computer science. Till what number do you want it to print? So you say x less than 8, right? If you do 8, then it will go till, or you do equal to 7, or x less than 8. And you say console.log. Why did you learn last time? How do you increment the value? So in this one, you say x plus plus. If you remember last time we saw x plus plus, this will increment the values. Right, if I run this, the output should be, look at that. So the loop continues till you get to 7. Does it not start at 0? That's weird. Because it's x is equal to 1, sorry, that will start at x equal to 1 rather than 0. Yeah, because we said x is 1, it will start at 1. So let's make it 1 to 7. Does that make sense? Now, what if x was an array? So for example, x was this. Right, can somebody help me print 1, 3, 4, 5 with the while loop? So the first one should be 1, second 3, 4, and then 5. How do we do this? Help me out here. So now x is an array, if you remember. Is the question clear? I want you to print out all the elements of the array. I want you to print out 1, 3, 4, 5. Can somebody help me out here? While x is less than 5, we can try it. All right, let's x than 5. Then, should we run this much and check? Very good. We'll need these brackets because that's how it understands the elements. And then, any ideas here? I want to print out all the elements of the array. This is where the creativity comes in. See if you can think how to do this, the logical thinking. All right, so we want the loop to go from 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? We want it to run 4 times. And every time we want it to run an input x at 1, x at 2, x at 3, and x at 4. So how do we do that? All right. Maybe try this when you practice. Yeah, I'll help you. Try this. So do this much today and then go to Blackboard. There's another practice. So practice this on your own first and then go to Blackboard and see if you can do this. Stop the recording.